What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fitness Oracle. Today is a interesting day. We actually sat down with Emily Marquis, who is a clinical health and wellness coach and a yoga instructor, among other things. Like she's got a whole amazing resume of stuff. This is just a little recap before we get into the real intro. Um, she's created a group of powerful individuals and businesses to help with supporting each other and creating healthy lifestyle habits for both individuals and for corporations. Some of the topics that we went in today has were quite deep. Um, as as in the fact that you have the power to do it yourself. You don't need well, you do need modern medicine. However, there are alternatives, and that was the whole purpose of this entire show, um or at least this episode. So today we actually talked about minimum five topics. We talked about quite a bit. We talked about the power to heal yourself, the power to heal yourself, the power of why, and it's something that I personally live by, uh, creating visions and implementing them and sticking to and circling back to why, setting goals, and again, circling back to your vision and circling back to your why. And the biggest thing that we're trying that we're facing with our society today is reintegrating with a population, which is a big topic. And we briefly touched up on it. I wanted to go into a little bit more detail, but we didn't go into that topic too deeply, which we should have which we should have had. However, it was just such a broad topic that this episode would have lasted even longer than the last episode, which was 2 hours. So I hope you enjoy this show. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And again, as normal, if you do enjoy, what we're doing here at the Fitness Oracle, please subscribe to the channel if you're watching this on YouTube. Um, please leave a comment below. Let us know that you're there and you're listening. Hit the bell to notify you the next time that we come out with another episode. And as we are working on a lot of stuff, it's just trying to phase stuff in slowly so I don't get overworked and I just burn out and stop doing stuff. So that's why I'm kind of just slowly bringing stuff in. And as usual, if you do know of anybody, any guys or any girls out there that are suffering from mental health issues, please share this with them, as these episodes, this entire Fitness Oracle thing is for them, to help them understand that, one, they are not alone, and two, there are options other than whatever they may be going through. And with that, I hope you enjoy today's episode.
Fear can be a barrier. Fear is a very real thing. It's meant for us as an instinct to have as a defense mechanism. However, we are not in caveman situations anymore, so our fears can be something we can get over if we look at them. I think that it's really connecting again with that motivation and the understanding the switch from helplessness to empowerment. And I think it should take a village of not just different people, but modalities, from healers like shamans or acupuncturists or chiropractors to naturopaths. I think integrative health is so we have this image in our head, right, of who we are. And we either have a negative vision or an ideal self vision. And so as a coach, asking just really powerful questions and spending a lot of time upfront building that foundation of motivation and the vision of your ideal self, whether that's in your physical health, mental health, relationships.
Welcome to the Fitness Oracle, where we have real conversations with real people just like you, with real stories just like yours. And this is one of their stories. I am your host, John Katsavos. My guest today is Emily Marquis. She is a clinical health and wellness coach, board certified NBC HWC, an RYT 200 yoga instructor, and mindfulness consultant. Emily works with individuals and groups in support of creating healthy habits for sustainable lifestyle change. Drawing from her professional training and personal health challenges she has experienced in preventing, reducing, and managing chronic illness, from stress to sleep to weight loss to work-life balance. With her combined coaching and corporate HR background, Emily works with organizations in creating cultures of wellness and NAHU certified. Emily also works with clinics and fellow practitioners to create a village for clients to best support their well-being. She is an instructor at Emory University in their graduate coaching certified program. She lives in Colorado with her family and loves the balance between a good TV show and an outdoor adventure. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, John. I appreciate it.
So how is Colorado? Are you guys fully open?
We are fully open, and I live in a tourist town in Southwest Colorado. So we're happy to be open and thriving. That's what we live on here. And yeah, it's been rainy this season, which is welcomed. So we've had some fires, but not too many. So it's beautiful here in Colorado.
That's really great. We're actually slowly trying to open here up in Toronto. So we're all welcoming that part with open arms.
It will get there. You will get there. And even when you do, it's still strange and ambiguous, and not everybody's there yet.
Which is quite interesting that you said that, because later on in the show, we are going to talk about reintegrating ourselves back into how we had it. But for now, you actually wrote a blog post that actually struck a chord with me. Not in a bad way. It was a good chord. It was more of an interest, because when people talk about fear, you pique my interest, because I'm a type of person that loves going where I'm afraid. Not to the point where I'm going to hurt myself, but just, curious about where is this going to lead me. You talked about it as a barrier. How so?
Well, I think you have a characteristic where you're open to looking at your fear and maybe being, like you said, having some curiosity about it. Fear can be a barrier. Fear is a very real thing. It's meant for us as an instinct to have as a defense mechanism. However, we are not in caveman situations anymore. So our fears can be something we can get over if we look at them. I really liked a quote that I heard the author Liz Gilbert write. She said, "You can have a fear, but sometimes you have to strap it in the car seat in the back and push on the gas pedal forward. Still there, but you have to get push forward through it." So fear can be a barrier because of many different things. So let's say you have a fear, a small fear. If you uncover, like, it can be a barrier to working out. You have a fear maybe that your appearance or your clothes or your abilities or capabilities aren't going to match what everyone else's is in the gym or the yoga studio. Now, they're probably all sitting there thinking about their grocery lists and their own bodies and not even looking at you. But that can be a fear that is a barrier to even stepping into that gym or signing up for a class. We have fears from our past that can, like that our parents put on us that may not even be recognizable anymore, that they aren't ours. Like I know my mother was very afraid of horses. And so it was just ingrained in me to not try horseback riding or to not get near horses. So it can be a fear about how we look or a big fear that was imposed on us, but it's definitely something to look at that can be something that can hold us back. We even have fears of not succeeding, or a fear of, if I stop drinking, then what's going to happen? Who am I going to be? So lots of fears out there, and they're really if it's not doing you a good in defending you anymore, then it's probably a barrier.
That's quite interesting, because fear of success is also a big fear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Going into a lot of personal stuff here, and it's not about me. I have to remind myself it's not about me. But everybody has their own way of, breaking barriers. How do you break down some of those barriers? Because fear, like I've said in a previous podcast, can get you into two different places. It can either stop you from doing what you need to do, or it can lead you to places of amazing expectations for yourself that you never even dreamed of. So how do you
Mm-hmm.
go about breaking those barriers down so people can live in a state of elation, state of abundance?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a mindset, and it takes practice. And so, what I have been trained in, and science tells us, and really is philosophically what I work with in clients, is um, we all have a choice. We all have power. No matter how big or small that fear is, but it takes some awareness to pause and ask yourself some of those questions. Okay, I'm feeling fear, what does that even look like, or feel like in my body? Like, how do I know I'm having fear? Like, usually it's like your shoulders tense, or clench your butt or your jaw, or you start sweating. And so there's some triggers, or you start racing in your mind the what ifs of the black hole, or you start Googling, what if I get eaten by, a mountain lion on a hike or something. So pause when you start noticing those triggers, and then ask yourself those questions. Okay, is this real? Like, am I safe right now? Or, how big is this fear? And then how can I get power over that? And usually there's two answers: courage. And then how do you get the courage is usually through tools. And so that can be through resources. So if you're feeling fear, reach into that toolbox and lean into your strengths of those tools that you have, whether that's calling a friend, calling an expert, or like, okay, this, or talking yourself out of it, or going to a course, reading a book, trying it out and noticing that there isn't fear. So gathering information and tools is how you can gradually break down the barriers by having courage, knowledge, and empowerment to get there. So that's pretty high level, and that can take a week. It can take months of trial and error, or gaining those tools.
Yeah, that's a big mouthful right there. Like, it can take like years sometimes to break down some of the barriers, depending on how deep that fear really goes. Like you said, a couple
Mhm.
points with, like, your parents, that can go like from childhood, and if you're in your mid 40s or late 50s or whatever, I mean, can take a um really long time.
Yes. And usually when you start looking at shadows or fears or being curious about them. It's like a peeling back an onion, and there's little tiny layers to each one till you get to the core.
Another thing that you actually touched up on was the power over yourself, the power to heal yourself, which is something that I'm a huge fan of. I'm a huge fan of, being able to heal yourself with natural ways. Um, what do you mean by having the power to heal?
Oh, so many things. So, personally, I've had some health challenges with diet and fertility and anxiety and depression, weight, all, autoimmune, all those things. And you either can take a bunch of medicine, which is sometimes really necessary, or you can start looking at peeling back those layers. And both are choices and power, but one of them can require more responsibility than the other and take more time, but it's long lasting. And so I think for me and for what I see clients do is it really has to connect with a desire to change and motivation and have a longer effect on that. So with that, I mean, the mind is so powerful. So having positive thoughts, looking at your, food as medicine or poison, and on extreme words there. So really just taking a look at, okay, I have power over my health by how I move, what I eat, what I drink, my social behaviors. So each one of those factors is, it's a lot of responsibility. Like we have to adult ourselves, but it's also, okay, now I have the power to not be so helpless in this diagnosis or in my weight or my abilities in this workout.
You talked about fertility. Now, this is something that, without getting too personal, it's something that has affected a family member of mine recently.
Mm-hmm. It's very common. Mm-hmm.
It is. Without getting into too much detail, they've been trying to get pregnant for a second time, and it's failing, it's failing, it's failing. Do you believe that past experiences can play a factor in whether or not, how can I say this without getting too woo woo?
I can go woo woo.
Okay.
And then I can bring it back to science too.
Do you think past experiences can have an effect on whether or not something as, I'm not going to call it simple because it's such a complex chain of events that can make a new human being in this world?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think those kinds of like past effects, past experiences that, failure, or I haven't resolved something in my past, can that affect something as getting pregnant?
Yes, I believe that, personally. And I do believe that that is something I personally experienced in my fertility challenges. If you really want to go woo woo, some people, say past lives or energy can affect that. Then science also even tells us now DNA changes. So, like Holocaust survivors' grandchildren, their DNA changed to respond to fear. They are tracing that back to ancestry. So it can be. And also, if what I think I hear you saying is, okay, is the trauma of trying for so long or miscarriage or loss or relationships or health. Yes, I think all of those things can be factors. And who knows what else is, there's 3 million things that go into getting pregnant and takes two people. So also, with the male or the donor or whatever, what is going into that. So Yes, I believe that. I personally know of people who go to shamans or medicine doc, medicinal healers to heal the energy in the bone. If you want to go there, acupuncture has been a modality in that, which personally I truly resonate with and respond to in my body. And then also maybe just healing the gut, going through, yeah, maybe it's time to just look at your energy and mental and also try to let go of shame. Maybe it is totally not your fault at all, and it's just not going to happen. And coming to that acceptance is really difficult. And then you hear those stories where 10 years later, the person gets pregnant when they're, least expecting it, not thinking about it, not stressed about it. So you wonder, I don't know how much science is in that, but I truly believe, there's all of that connected to it. Mm-hmm.
So blaming like God for not being able to get pregnant is like totally wrong.
Yeah, well, you can blame somebody if that helps you. I've been there, but yeah, some things have an explanation of millions, and some things it's too hard to understand.
And just for the record, it's okay to go like really woo-woo on my show. It's okay. I'm all
Okay,
good.
well,
I'm all good.
I go, I can go both in any direction.
Okay. What tools do you personally use to help people understand the power for them to heal themselves?
I think that it's really connecting again with that motivation and the understanding the switch from helplessness to empowerment. Now, fortunately, we do have so much science, so you can share some information and resources. But I think people who are on lots of medication or they see their life shortening in length because the doctor just continuing to have bad news. People actually have the innate desire to feel well. And I think that our culture externally is what gives off the reverse. Like, take a load off and drink all these are the commercials or the social media, all the information that's coming at us is contrary to that belief, our healthcare. And so I think it's just connecting with that ability that's actually innately in us, the desire, the capability, the motivation. And then once you start doing it and hearing other people's stories, but once you start taking charge of your health, you just feel better. And there's really no explanation beyond, I feel better, I'm seeing results. And then the motivation and confidence just climbs from there.
You said something interesting that I want to touch up on. Doctors giving people bad news, shortening their lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
We are in probably the biggest, I don't want to call it fear show, but that's what it's starting to look like.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to go here, but let's go anyways, because this is where I'm
Okay.
going. Do you think it's a good idea to put all our faith in an institution that doesn't know exactly where it's going, especially with a medicine that has so much controversy over it?
Are you talking about a specific medicine or just the overall healthcare?
Let's just talk about overall healthcare.
Okay. So I became a health coach because I personally disagree with the cultural philosophy of the way healthcare is run in America. And I think it's better in Canada, but we're still not, we're very different, Eastern and Western. And I think that prevention is really important. And so the fact that now in America, clinical health coaches, like what I am, are getting board certified and now being a part of the healthcare system. We're getting insurance numbers. Hopefully someday we'll be reimbursed. So I think we're having a shift that's going to take years, but is finally saying hello. So I know that you have to be your own advocate. I experienced this personally when I was going to the doctors and I had a slew of symptoms, and it was very easy for them to just write me a prescription for an antidepressant. Um, it was very difficult for me to say, no, I want to get tested for this, I want to get tested for that. And the doctors had the power to say, no, you don't need that. And I say, this is my body, I'm paying for it, but you have to get those orders. And so it took me a year to get a proper diagnosis of going to different doctors who would just listen to me and not just write me a prescription medication. And it turned out that's when I started finding out a lot of my endocrine problems and thyroid problems and food problems. I wasn't just feeling depressed or low energy because I was depressed. I knew it was something bigger. So I think that the training and mindset of our institutions is narrow, and it's reactive, and it's a one size fits all, and we are each incredibly unique and do have that power. So instead of sitting at the doctor's office and getting bad news every time, what can the conversations be with 16-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 20-year-olds with, here's where your, healthy habits are now instead of when they're 35. You've already missed out on 10 years of your life because you've been busy shortening it. So how can we just change that mindset? So I have a strong opinion on that in the institution, and I don't think our faith should be totally put into one there.
I totally agree with you there. I mean, I've been misdiagnosed a couple of times by physicians, and if they could miss the mark on these two easy things, they're human too.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, they're human, and I think it should take a village of not just different people but modalities, from healers like shamans or acupuncturists or chiropractors to naturopaths. I think integrative health is and having that be patient-centered individually, it's hopefully our future someday.
Sometime soon.
Yeah.
I have a feeling. And it's a consensus feeling, not just by me, by
Mm-hmm.
quite a few people. People are feeling a shift. Shifting gears, you do have a very interesting turn on the word why. Now, this is a big word, and I have been reminding myself constantly recently of my why. Now, what do you mean by the word why?
Oh, I think, yes, why is such a powerful question. I have 2 children and I get asked why all the time. And to the point where it's like, all right, you get 5 whys tonight before I, go to bed. But as a coach, it's a question that anytime you talk to me, you're going to get a why, and we'll always circle back. So there's a bigger why. And I think there's a lot of soul searching of that. Why are we here? What's our purpose? And that answer can be small or grand. I'm here to parent. I'm here to be kind. I'm here to teach. I'm here to whatever. Or on a smaller level, really connecting with that why. Now, again, science is showing that we have to have a reason. We have to have purpose, even if it's, why am I doing this job? And that can be down to provide for my family, which is fulfilling, or all the way to because I'm serving people. And generally the answer is not because I make money. And if it is, you need a new why or a new job. or if you're changing your health, like really connecting with that why. So I need to lose weight, or I need to exercise more, I need to change my diet. And the why is generally going to be pretty big. Like, I just want to feel well. I want to spend time with my kids and see them have grandkids. I don't want to die like my sister or something like that. So there are some pretty big whys, and it seems like it's a no-brainer when you ask people, like, why is this even important to you? And then you break that down to, okay, this week I'm going to cut out 6 sodas, or something like that. And then you just ask, well, why is that important to you? Well, that's because and then the answer goes back to, well, I want to eat better so that I can live longer. And it sounds so easy, but a lot of us need to take some time to pause to answer that question. Why am I doing this? Because so often we can just close our eyes and do things without intention or motivation, and then that's when we start to feel stressed, disconnected, low energy, because we're just going through the motions. And so when we can connect with that why, we are happier, fulfilled, and more likely to take action.
Yeah. I was gonna transition into motivation, but we'll do that in a bit, because you're
Okay.
too many wheels in the cog. You're just spinning right now. Um, Most of the time when I ask my clients, why do you do this? Why is this important to you? It always boils down to one thing that I've noticed. I don't know if you've noticed this too, and I want to get your perspective on it. It's basically, they want to feel loved, they want to feel accepted, they want to feel a part of
Mhm.
something. Uh, it- do you get the same feeling with that?
Yes. I mean, a sense of belonging, being seen, being accepted, externally is a huge motivation. And then if you peel that layer of the onion back, it's really like coming down to self love and acceptance, and being happy with who we are. That's really important. And that's, again, part of our humanity in being having that belonging and acceptance.
So being able to love yourself first before you can love someone else.
Hmm. Yes, and that seems so foreign to some. And for me personally, I know it took a while to get there, to know what loving myself was, but it's really just having a nice voice in your own head when you look in the mirror, or when you're doing something. When does that inner critic come up? And then self love is just saying, hey, that's not nice, I'll get through this, or I can do this, I'm going to do it again today. So just have that as self love, is just changing the criticism internally to some compassion.
Do you think it's important to listen to the self-critic but not pay too much attention to it?
Yeah, I think that, again, it's observing, and I'm pausing to question, like, okay, what is this about? Is this real? And then I kind of had this conversation with my inner critic, like, what do you need? Is a question I ask. Like, usually my inner critic starts getting on my head or blaming other people, or it's really easy. My ex-husband can be a natural target inside my mind, honestly, when nothing related remotely to him is going wrong in my life. So just, yeah, having awareness of it, and then saying either shut up, sit down, or okay, I hear you, what do you need? Yeah, so it's a continuous conversation.
Yeah. Only reason why I'm asking, because this is something that's, again, very, very, very near to me. In my
Mhm.
20s, when I was going through my own depression, and
Mhm.
I almost committed suicide twice because of it. The conversation that I was having in the morning with myself in the mirror was, I effing hate you. You're not worthy.
Mhm.
You're not this. You're not this. You're not that. So it's like, it's that conversation, like you said before, it's that conversation that you're having with yourself. It's like, you can be all smiles and giggles on the outside, but inside, if you're rotting, if you feel like you're rotting, people are going to
Yeah.
see, right? So
Oh, yeah. And that actually has a physiological impact on you when you start having those thoughts. And so if you're noticing those are your thoughts, um, the power in that situation is certainly to reach out and get some help, because sometimes you're too deep inside of it.
yeah, yeah. Switching to motivation, we're just going to touch up a little bit on motivation. Like, as a personal trainer, I see people highly, highly, highly motivated certain times of the year. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
January 1st like everybody thinks. There's multiple different times in the year where people become motivated. And it falls. It falls within like 2.5 weeks. People are no longer motivated. They'll go to the gym, don't eat well.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep people motivated? And do you like that word motivation?
Mm-hmm. I like the word motivation, but I know some people can roll their eyes at it. Um, and so I did this. I was part of this research study with the University of Louisville in Kentucky, and they were doing the impacts of physical activity on students in high stress situations, because our college students right now are having large suicide rates and all of that, bad habits. And part of it was I was the coach, so wellness coaching in the research, and so it was very fascinating to see all the science coming together before my eyes. And one of the things that studies say is there actually is a point when you're going through change where your body or your brain or whatever wants to hold on, and your motivation goes away. It's a physiological or mental neurologic, I can't say the word, process. And so that's when you have to begin with your motivation, your why up front, and then you pull it out when you start feeling yourself peeling away. How do I get that motivation back? And so it's what's going to keep you going. Like, even I think in a 60-minute workout session, whether you're lifting weights or doing cardio or in a class or yoga, there's a point halfway through that literally your body or your mind wants to stop. And so finding that motivation is going to be your resilience. And so I recommend to clients, take a sticky note, be that person, put it on your water bottle, put it on the machine, put it on your steering wheel, put it on your mirror, put it on your nightstand. Like, it's going to be a challenge to remember it. So make it visible, make it hard for it to go away. And then once you get past that hump, it's actually then exponentially easier to continue to stay motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you can't do it, get a buddy or a coach.
I have a big sticky note at work and here that says help someone today. That's it.
Oh, that's your why. That's great.
Um, this is something new that actually has come into my life this year. And I was introduced to it from this men's group that I'm a part of. And when I saw you put this, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. You said creating visions. Now,
Mm,
I didn't know what this was up until I was introduced to it this year. Our starting point is a little bit different. I want to know what your starting point is to help somebody create a vision.
mm. Well, you already have it. So I support people in leaning into it and uncovering it. So we have this image in our head, right, of who we are. And we either have a negative vision or an ideal self vision. And so as a coach, asking just really powerful questions and spending a lot of time upfront building that foundation of motivation and the vision of your ideal self, whether that's in your physical health, mental health, relationships, You can have several versions of your ideal self depending on the category. So lots of questions. If people are open to it, I love doing some meditations specific around visioning, so you can tap into that. I do an annual vision board workshop that's the biggest sellout every single year. So all of that visioning, and then also you're just talking about it and then writing it down again, as connecting with your why. And so mostly people have a vision, and that's how you then can relate to, okay, well, this is my vision. And you get there through different modalities. And then what's the gap? And so that's where you can start filling in the blanks there.
That's good. That's good. We were told start at the end,
Oh,
our very end.
mm-hmm.
Who's
Mm-hmm.
talking about you and while you're not here anymore? Who's talking about you?
Mm-hmm.
What are they saying? What was the
Yes.
impact? And so it's quite interesting. Exactly like you said, like you have this vision of yourself. Um, is this just only health based, or is this like life based for you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, legacy is a very important question, and it can seem really grand, but it's something to ponder. Whether you're sitting down intentionally to think about it, or something has occurred that's forcing you to think about it. But it's really intentional to sit down and just think about our legacy. And then when you come upon a challenge or a decision or courage, you can even ask, how does this align with my legacy or my ideal self? What would my ideal self do in this situation? So it's a great turning point as well.
How would you get about somebody like, with roadblocks? Like, I'll give you an example. Like, they have this vision of themselves, and they know what to do, but they're just too afraid to do it, introducing barriers into themselves.
Mm-hmm.
How would
Mm-hmm.
you help somebody say, okay, you know what? You can do this.
Mm. Well, that's when we really drive into those tools again. And tools can be tangible, but we're all born with different strengths, whether we're born with them or we've built them over time. Usually, we've experienced challenges in our life previously, in any different form, small or big. And so you've built strengths to get you to a certain point, or learned life lessons, heaven forbid. So lean into, okay, what have you done before? Or what's a transferable skill or strength that you have? And sometimes if you don't know that, we'll start to uncover that. There's different tests you can take online, what your character strengths are, capability strengths, and then, or again, like I said, what did you do last time you had a big challenge and you didn't think you could do it, or you had fear? So leaning into those strengths as tools, and then if not, let's go find some. Let's go find some more tools to help you with those.
Cool. Very, very cool. Um, Again, as a personal trainer, I love this next topic. I absolutely love it. A lot of people, they love it, but they don't stay on it. Setting goals for yourself. Now, this is such a broad topic, and people have so many different and useful tools to set goals for yourself. Now, how do you go about setting goals for yourself? And how do you go about setting goals, helping people set their own goals?
Oh gosh, yes, that's a big topic. And I appreciate you asking me that, because just the other day I had um, one of my things when I have a rule, I'm authentic and real, no lies, integrity is really important to me. And so sometimes with my clients, I'll relate to them and say, oh my gosh, I'm going through that too. And I had a client say, really? I thought you had it so together. And I said, well, yeah, I just have a lot of tools, but man, I am human and I have a life. And so setting goals for me is I have to coach myself through it. But really being specific and attainable, I think that's really realistic and important. So I want to get, with COVID, I stopped going to my social outlets for working out. It's really easy for me to with somebody for a hike where I live, but getting in that regular strength training for me, or cardio, intentional high intensity workouts, has totally gone away. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to exercise every week, every day this week. And of course it didn't happen. So I'm like, okay, I have to start smaller. I'm going to find one class because I'm not doing the videos. It's just not happening. I'm over the videos online at home. COVID just did that to death to me. And again, that I'm not, the motivation isn't there anymore. So, okay, I need some social. I found one class. I'm going to go once next week, and I'm going to pay ahead of time. So I have some accountability and some reality in what's achievable for the goal for me. And also I had to talk about it with my partner and had to tell him about it. Like, I have to do this because I'm not feeling well and I want to, this is important to my health. So again, connecting with that why, and then setting like when it's going to happen. It's realistic, and then having some accountability in that and make it small.
So keeping it simple.
Keep it simple. Yes. And it will grow on its own.
I love it because that's what I do too. Like, I found that every time that, when was it, in October, I had a burnout and I literally like closed my laptop for a month, didn't turn on my computer for a month, which that never happens, especially like for me, like I work in IT full time. So for me to come home and, do my fitness stuff and my podcasting stuff, it's like, I need to have the laptop open. I'm like, no, I couldn't even physically open the laptop.
Wow.
So it's just, I did one thing for 1 week, and then I added a second thing the next week, like slowly, gradually increasing it. Do you feel that if you jump back in full blown, how often have you seen people just do it for like a week and then stop?
Yeah, it's not sustainable because you weren't doing it before. And so going all or nothing is, it's a sure way to not succeed. And that's a huge life lesson. And as a coach, you can make some recommendations, right? But you can't control. And if someone has ambition and motivation, you're like, all right, try it, give it a try. And, they can succeed. But then, week 2 or week 3, things just start to slowly die down because that level of intensity in anything is just not sustainable.
Yeah, so true. So true. What would you say somebody who keeps doing it on a regular basis?
Doing the high intensity all in.
You see them doing the high intensity all in, they fail, they go back in, they fail, they go back in, they fail.
Yeah, I think we would if they would have to be able to look at that. It's easy for someone on an outside perspective to see the pattern that's not working, but they can be really attached to that capability of like, I go all in, it works, I lost the weight, it's yo-yo, or I went all in, I ran a marathon and now I'm going to do nothing or something. So it can be a mark of pride or capability or success or achievement. But then you have those lows. So I think trying to work with that person on recognizing the patterns and that it's an up and a down, that's the pattern. So how can we get, what would consistency of a flat line look like that's more sustainable instead of the up and downs? And also going back to, if you want to dig a little deeper, getting to the fear of, well, if I don't go all in, what if I fail? Or what if I'm not viewed as ambitious or successful, or they tell themselves, I'm a hard worker, I have strong work ethic. So having fear of letting go of that identity, because failure is right around the corner. So it's a mindset and getting there, and just really realizing some patterns and getting to that realization and acceptance.
Interesting. Only reason why I'm asking is because people who have a tendency of doing that, I'm pointing to myself for people listening to that. They are they have a higher rate of falling into depression if they're not ready to do it, because they were such a high peak and they hit such a low, like you said, the highs and low peaks, that when they get into the low, they really feel like failures.
So much shame. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Me personally, I have specific tools that I implement when I hit my lows.
Mm-hmm.
But what if somebody doesn't have their own tools? How can you, like, say, okay, we're here, but that's okay. Like, how would you help that person?
Well, in that time, I think it'd be really important to talk about, I think, if you want to go really deep, looking at their connection with, okay, what are the stories they are telling themselves? Failure and, success. They are one extreme to the other. How can they get to a story of success is consistent sustainability? And then, if they're not doing, then they're not feeling successful. I have a friend who, when she was relaxing and reading a book, her husband came home and she caught herself throwing the book like behind her, because she had this feeling like, oh my gosh, if my husband catches me reading, he's going to think I'm useless or not working hard enough, And of course, he didn't think any of those things. So some people have this idea, if I'm not doing, I'm not contributing, I'm not worthy, I'm not useful. So that's a whole thing to unpack when they're in that, which may be mental health person, working through what a low feels like and why. But also, okay, if you have to get out of that rut, instead of going all in, trying to dig those baby steps, what's the next notch on a rung on the ladder up, instead of jumping 60 feet? What's the next one? What's 1 foot up? Let's try that. And just trying to get back to that level of contentment in the middle.
Yeah. Last 16 months have been hard, and a lot of people have hit new lows with themselves. How And now that everything's opening up again, people are finding it another more difficulty trying to reintegrate themselves with society, with other people. And it's starting to come up with weird challenges. Like I saw one guy give a handshake and the other guy's like, what kind of a handshake is that?
Yeah.
So how would you recommend for people to, you know, get back to whatever quote unquote normal was when this thing happened? I'm just going to call it a thing.
Yeah. Well, and that's really personal, right? I mean, we have such different levels of fears, beliefs, chronic illness realities, and uh, safety precautions that are very real for one person and totally not applicable to another. So it's so hard. So really, it's going down to what feels good to you, and do that. I know someone who is totally healthy and she's still scared to go out, to do some social things. And, obviously from an outsider's perspective, that socialization would be so healthy for her, in having some joy and some fun and some social connection. And so I think, yeah, the last few or year or more has triggered some anxieties and fear that, maybe already had existed, but the tools weren't there, or the fears were really real. So it's really just, as you said at the beginning of our conversation, is having the courage to just look at what's true for you and what's a fear that maybe could be resolved or talked about or given some tools. Like, okay, if I'm going to have this fear, maybe I go out and hang out with people or go to a meeting and I don't choose the handshake. Or today I'm going to choose to acknowledge that I'm safe and this is going to be okay. And we're going to just see how it goes. So I think really just looking at it, setting some intentions and trial and error, and just take some action that feels good to you.
I know what you mean by uh, when you're talking about your friend that she was scared of leaving, because what led me to that bridge was me locking myself in my parents' basement apartment for an entire year.
Wow.
So I totally understand when people are saying that they're having a hard time, but sometimes my belief is a hug can go a long way. I know this is like coming from like I'm like one of the biggest conservative people that you'll ever meet. I do not like I'm not going to say I don't like, I don't agree with a lot of policies on the left and everything, but one hug can go a long way when it comes to somebody who's suffering from depression, from
Mhm.
separation. And it's just such a simple thing, and it can just connect and help another person. Do you have any
Mhm.
simple tools that you can that you can share with somebody that that they can do to?
Mhm. Yes. And again, using that science, like it's not just like go get a hug, science tells us as humans how important touch is. Um, it's a way that we communicate as humans, and it's a way we nurture ourselves and socially. So for sure, I would say that it again has to work for you and take baby steps. I know, and side story, I went through a really incredibly intense divorce in a very small town, which what felt like a fishbowl. And so I personally had to retreat from anything social because I was going through so much that I felt the vulnerability was on a huge scale. I didn't feel like I could be my best self. So I did have to go off the grid and take care of myself in order to come back out and feel safe in that. So I can relate as well. So what feels good to you? Who feels safe? Ask those questions. Is it a friend? Is it a family member? First, start by, there's a mindfulness activity. You can just put your own skin to skin, your own hand on your heart. That actually slows down your parasympathetic nervous system. And I'm not sure where you are, but like I'm a yoga instructor, and we were not allowed to offer adjustments to people during class, which some of our students, that's such a awesome part of class. You get like a little mini massage, or you get to learn a pose better. And I know that for me as a teacher, it was very hard to connect with students because I couldn't touch them. So when we started being allowed to do that just recently, the connection I had between students and more people started coming and felt comfortable with it because it was safe. So if you can go to a place where you just get, a slight neck rub in a yoga class, or you go get to a personal trainer and you get a high five, starting somewhere small, but it is important to your well-being in some way. Mm-hmm.
Well, before all of this happened, I was actually doing I don't know if you know, like MAT, muscle
Mm-hmm.
activation technique.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
So it was a form of it. It wasn't exactly MAT, but it was more like muscular muscular integrity tests in certain
Okay.
joint positions.
Yes.
So I was very hands-on. Like I had people on my table. I was testing their hips, testing their knees,
Hmm.
ankles, arms. I'm not allowed to do that now.
Hmm.
The problem is everything's going to open back up. And I see this happening. My clients are going to come back and they're not going to want me to touch them
Hmm. Hmm.
because they're so afraid. And it's like you said, baby steps, right?
Hmm. Well, I think there's such a spectrum. So as a practitioner, I totally see your, am I even going to have clients? Can I work in the way that I need to? It was so interesting. So I have an office, and we have a therapist, and we have a couple massage therapists, and so and the massage therapist during COVID, she was approved to stay open here in Colorado in public health. She is booked out. Like some people who wouldn't walk down the street without 3 masks on their face continue to go get the risk of getting a massage. So it's just interesting where people's, choose to set their rules in their head. And so it's all going to open back up, and there will be some people who might not come, but I know I go get acupuncture, and she takes all the precautions and touches people, and generally people, once they go and are okay with it, and know that they're safe, it seems to be working out because it is necessary for our health.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Couple, maybe last month or so, I had a kickboxing coach come on, and he was like, out in the UK, and he was like, yeah, we opened up. He goes, the first class was a little weird, but everybody started to come back together after the first punch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just takes doing it, even the first time or the second time. The first time is always going to be the most vulnerable with uncertainty, but it feels safe once you get there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's all like a mind game, right? Is
Hmm.
the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel.
Hmm. And again, you have power over it. So, what can I do to take care of myself, um, for my immune system, or who do I hang out with, or what do I choose to do in those situations? You're not totally helpless.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to be wrapping up the show in just a little bit. And these are
Okay.
the six or seven questions I ask all my guests. And I just want to get your feedback on it and your point of view. With the increase in people suffering from depression from the constant lockdowns and uncertainty, what would be the one thing that you could tell them to keep their hopes up?
Ooh, this is temporary, and you will get through it. I mean, if you think about it, and get help if you need it. Don't ever be afraid to get help. If you think about it, I'm astonished that in the United States, the Great Depression really lasted like 10 years. The Spanish flu was like, years and years and years. We are so lucky that this has been relatively a short amount of time. So, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, it will get better.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. Uh, where do you see Emily Marquis in the next 5 years?
Oh, in the next 5 years, um, serving many. I really want to take this profession forward, as I was saying before. So, continuing to teach and get coaches out there credibly. So, continuing to teach in the universities, and really lobby in healthcare for some shifts and getting notoriety professionally. And then personally, I just want to be living life, being a good parent, taking care of myself, and not having a good ratio of burnout to help, and having the burnouts be a lot less frequent.
That's awesome. That's awesome. If you could pick up the phone right now and call yourself at 20 years old, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, I would say, honey, this is not pretty. Clean yourself up. And it's going to be okay. At 20, I was, I was that person who went all in on everything. Straight A student, worked 3 jobs, and partied really, really, really hard with drugs and alcohol. And so my mental health was not, none of it was looking good on paper. It was amazing. But so I would say start making some changes. Everything's going to be okay. And don't wait until you're 30.
Looking back, would you change anything?
Well, it's so hard because I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. I would say I would have, gotten help, and surrounded myself with positive people sooner in life. I think. Mhm.
Nice. What scares you?
Every time my kids walk out my door. I try not to be an anxious mom, but the thoughts in my head are certainly there. Are they going to get hit by a bus today? Are they going to, get someone going to be mean to them on the playground? Or, something going to bad happen with their dad? Generally, the answer is 1000 times percent no. So my biggest fear is just the mama bear inside of me. And then the fear after that is projecting it. So I do my best to not pass that on.
I know my sister's a mom of 2 boys, 2 young boys, and actually the dad's worse than the mom. Helicopter parents, but
Oh yeah, I just read the book How to Raise an Adult, which is the anti-helicopter parent, and it's very relaxing. Yeah.
they're good people. They're good people with really 2 amazing boys. And I love my nephews to the moon and back, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's gotta let it
Good
get
to let go a little bit.
not too much. Where can people find more about you?
On my website, Emily Marquis, MARQUIS.com. Just like the French way. That's where you find mostly about me. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and that's where I share the people I'm working with, and hopefully I can connect with you through that.
Awesome. I will post your link, and with your permission, I will post your social media links as well.
Yes, please. Thank you.
It's just so everybody can have easy access to you and your services.
Great. Thank you. I look forward to connecting.
Awesome. Any final thoughts?
Thank you so much. I think these podcasts are so needed. It's personally one of my tools when I'm feeling down or needing inspiration or want to hear some like-minded thing. Podcasts are my go-to. So to anyone listening, this is a great tool to have. So thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you so much for all your work that you do with everything within the health and wellness industry. It's so much needed, especially today, that in the crazy world that we live in. I've been digging into some of your stuff on your website, and it's just great. It's absolutely amazing. So I appreciate you for all the hard work that you put in, and I know how hard it can be sometimes.
Thank you. Lots of undoing what we do to ourselves. Yes, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Going through hard times is just a test. What you need to know is that when you get out of whatever you're going through, you will be stronger than ever before, and you don't need to go through it alone. Always know that you are not alone. Stay tuned for more real people with amazing stories that are just like yours. Until then, to everyone out there listening, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you may be in this crazy world.